to leave. Now, I think it should turn out to be a very exciting debate, because if a person lives for, say, 80 years or 90 years, the first 50% of his life, I think he or she should eat to live. Or rather, the other way around, first 50 years, he should live to eat. And the next 50 years, he should eat to sustain himself or herself. So I think the opinion is divided on both, and we have two excellent debaters to debate on this topic. For the motion would be Dr. Deep Datta, who is a consultant endocrinologist at New Delhi, but a pass out from IPGMER Kolkata. And to oppose it, we have Dr. Arundhati Dasgupta. Now, Dr. Deep Datta, so to first take the stage. And Deep, your time is 14 minutes to debate your point. Over to Dr. Deep Datta.
Thank you, sir, for the kind introduction. It's always an honor to be speaking, to be a part of the this unique forum. And National Nutrition Week is something unique. It started for the first time, I think, in Calcutta, and has now been replicated in the rest of the country. And big hats off to Dr. Shomik, and amazing as always, very interesting quiz. We always get to learn a lot of new things, small things which we take for granted, was beautifully addressed by him. So let me share the slides with you. Well, I think I have the easier job to do, which is to highlight with you why we should eat to live. There's no question of living for eating, because the consequences of living for eating, you live to eat, is I see in Delhi day in and day out. I think the average BMI of the patients in Delhi is, I think, around 35 to 40. I'm talking of average, I'm not talking of the upper limit. So, and the consequences which we all know. So let's see in the next 14 minutes why we should eat to live. So for that, we should know, as Nilanjan sir just highlighted, how we should go about how much we eat typically in our lifespan. So this is European data. I'm sure we can generate Indian data also. There's a 70-year-old odd lady. If you see her food habits, an average 70-year-old odd lady would have ended up eating 25 cows, my goodness, 40 sheep, 35 pigs, more than 2 tons of fish, more than 30,000 liters of milk. The numbers are staggering. 50,000 loaves of bread, the list can go on and on. So we don't realize how much we really actually eat. And for that matter, the last word was 8 kg of dirt also. So I think in India, we perhaps eat more dirt. I think there's more pollution here compared to the rest of the world. So just to show that we indeed do eat a lot in our lifetime. So I think the most pure form of capitalism is USA. I think we can link that to the overeating also. The prevalence of obesity is the highest, perhaps highest in Caucasians, in the Americans, in USA, in Indians also, unfortunately, with development. I think we are catching up, unfortunately. So we need to take a look back how we are doing. So let us look back what the ancient history has to say. It may be the Hindu philosophy, or the Greeks, or even the Japanese philosophy. It's very clear. You eat to live. So you eat is whatever minimum is necessary to live. You don't live to eat means you shouldn't spend your entire day eating, obsessing about food and thinking about food. That's not the way to live. Your quality of life goes down. And why, how, what happens, what are the consequences, we are going to see subsequently. So as for everything, I did a search in PubMed, and we do have a good high volume of literature highlighting why it is important to eat to live and not live to eat. Because you can live longer, you can live a more productive life, you can live a healthier life, you can be stronger if you just eat to live and not live to eat the other way around. There's a lot of studies which have shown, this is a paper published way back in 2012, which showed that schools and kids who were staying, whose home were near to fast food restaurants, they had a higher prevalence of obesity. They had a higher visits to those places, perhaps. So I think eating in modern generation is not only about survival. Eating is a lifestyle statement. How you eat, what you eat, when to eat. Many times we eat under peer pressure. We eat under the pressure of the advertisement. The fast food, the e-order services like the Zomato and Swiggy has made it even more fashionable to eat excess, eat at the wrong time, and eat inappropriately. So this topic is even more relevant in the post-COVID scenario, that please don't eat excessively, eat that much to live a healthy life, a meaningful life. So even in people living with cancer, there are papers to show that. So cancer treatment is not only about surgery, chemotherapy, a diet has a major role. And the oncologist who did focus on diet training, sitting down with patients, having sessions of class. We are going to have a diet class just after this lecture. I'm really looking forward to it. So that really made a lot of difference, not only in improving the quality of life, but also in improving outcomes. Eating excess is also carcinogenic. Just like smoking is injurious to health, eating excess is also injurious to health. So again, a much more recent paper published in Appetite, which showed that nearly 3 out of 10 people perceive that they don't eat just for the survival. They eat under many other reasons. They take it as a reward experience. They get happiness out of it. So under peer pressure, they have cravings. So these are not healthy ways of eating. Many times we do them subconsciously. We need to take a pause, think about it, what we are doing, and what benefit or what harm we are going to get in the long run. And why is it so? Because we know we have the satiety centers in the brain, we have the hunger centers, and we have the reward pathway. So there are many ways of enticing the reward pathway. Even people who jog, those who run, they get endorphin surge just by running, and the reward pathway gets activated. So food should not be a way to stimulate the reward pathway. We should find alternate ways of gratification. Food, whenever is used as a source of gratification, does only harm, not only to our body, but also to our mind. So it's a myth that if you want to eat healthy, if you want to just eat to live, it means you have to eat boring food, you have to eat bland food, you have to eat boiled food. Absolutely not. You can have the tastiest of food, but keep the portion size into control, keep the timing into control. Eat during this, maintain your circadian rhythm, avoid eating as late as possible. If you can eat with dawn to dusk, that's the healthiest way of eating. So now let's look at the benefits. If we eat to live, we are going to lose weight. Of course, we are going to prevent diabetes. The direct study showed that people who are obese, 4 to 5 years duration of diabetes, if they eat to live, they actually lose weight, and you can actually reverse diabetes and hypertension. People on thyroxine replacement, hypothyroidism, who are obese, if they eat to live, they can actually lose their excess body weight and their thyroxine dose come down. They have a better sense of well-being, and in the end, we live longer. Yes, there are studies to show that. There are not one study, two. There are many, many studies to show that the lesser you eat, the longer you live. Basically, your needs, your metabolic needs are taken care of. Don't eat excess. That is going to do harm. What harm they do, I'll come to details in the next few minutes. Let us look at the Japanese people coming from the Okinawa island. They live one of the longest of all humans on the planet. And if you look, in general, Japanese live longer, and they live even longer. What is important? They eat even less than average Japanese. The calorie intake is 30% lower, and they have a lesser burden of cardiovascular disease. They have a lesser burden of cancer. This is the famous University of Wisconsin study. We have come across in different forums. This landmark study showed that in primates, when you restrict calorie, you can actually prevent non-communicable diseases, diabetes, cardiac disease, and cancer in them. And these monkeys, they were able to live longer. So what happens when we restrict calories? Excess calories can lead to sympathetic system activation. Excess calories are inflammatogenic. So they can cause systemic inflammation, they can cause endothelial dysfunction, they can all cause overactivation of the thyroid axis. Those things can be reversed if we restrict the calories. Our metabolic rate comes down. Our AMPK enzyme activity in the liver, which is the core regulator of our metabolism, its activity is upregulated. This is perhaps the most important slide of the entire presentation, which highlights what happens when we eat to live and not live to eat. So just like our car runs on petrol, our body runs on glucose. And just like we take food, the only job of our food pipe is to extract the fuel, which is glucose. and the fuel enters the circulation, and that's supposed to be stored in the tank. The main tanks are muscle, adipose tissue, the liver, right? So when we eat excess, when we eat to live, there's too much of energy source of glucose. So if you have too much of car in your petrol in your car, it will burn off your car. Too much of glucose will burn away the body. So body needs to store, the adipose tissue has a limit, the muscles have a limit, and the excess glucose goes into liver, and that leads to fatty liver. A critical level of liver fat, and liver and pancreas are a part of portal circulation, which leads to increased pancreatic fat also. A critical level of pancreatic fat is reached, which leads to development of diabetes, hypertension, and all the other end organ damages. These are all part of visceral fat, which are metabolically inactive, the most difficult fat to lose. You can lose the peripheral fat, but not this. The direct study showed this, that with greater amount of weight loss, once a person reaches a particular threshold lower of the pancreatic fat and the liver fat, you can reverse diabetes and hypertension. What is that threshold? It varies from person to person. It is determined by the genetic makeup of the individual, the good or the bad genes which we have got from our parents and grandparents. So if you eat to live, you are not going to have excess amount of visceral fat. You're never going to develop diabetes or hypertension. Or if you have diabetes or hypertension, you can actually reverse it. So that's the beauty of this twin cycle hypothesis, which summarizes the benefit. The direct study, we all know, the greater the weight loss, more reversal. For people who are obese, lose 15 kilos body weight or more. And if you have a diabetes duration of less than 5 years, sir or madam, you can have a nearly 80% chance of going off your diabetes pills. Now, how do we go about eating to live? There is no single right answer. There is no single pathway. You can go to whatever suits you. Increasing fiber intake in your diet is a great way to eat less, reduce calories, and eat to live. You may choose keto diet. You may choose paleo diet. Somebody may be a vegetarian. Somebody may be a non-vegetarian. So there is no single answer. Sit down with your doctor, with your endocrinologist, and discuss whatever suits you. Choose the middle path. Drastics of anything is not going to work. So eat less, eat frugal, enjoy whatever eating, eat slowly. Don't eat with your mobile phones. Look at what you're eating. Chew at least. It is suggested that people who chew 20 times the food lump in the mouth and then they swallow, they have a lower risk of non-communicable disease. So enjoy the food slowly. It is the taste which matters. After it crosses the tongue, it really doesn't matter what you have eaten. So with this, I would like to end my presentation by quoting our father of the nation, who also strongly believed in the concept of eat as much to live only. Don't binge. Love your body. Don't load your body with toxins of excess food. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Deep, for your excellent exposition on why one should eat rationally and not use food as a source of our hedonistic pleasure. Is he right? Let's see what Dr. Arundhati Dasgupta, who is also a very brilliant speaker and a good organizer. She is in charge of Rudraksh Super Specialty Center at Siliguri, to say about whether we should enjoy food, at least if we go to Siliguri, whether she will treat us with a culinary fare, or would say, like Dr. Deep Datta, no, you shouldn't eat more. Otherwise, you can have your blood sugar going awry, or you will be putting on 2 kilos more. Let's see what Dr. Arundhati Dasgupta has to say.
Thank you.
10 minutes for you.
Thank you so much, sir. And it's a great pleasure to be a part of such a wonderful forum. I did enjoy what Dr. Deep said, because he started off, he spoke well, but unfortunately he did not speak on the topic that we were supposed to speak on. I hope my slides are visible. Are they? Is my slide visible? Hello. Sir, yes, is my slide visible?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So our topic given to us, as I understood, is one should eat to live. Unfortunately, what I thought Dr. Deep spoke about was, is obesity better or is being leaner better? Is cutting down on your weight good or isn't it? I mean, we all know the answers, but the question is not that. The question is, should we eat to live? Remember, the word is to live and not to survive. So, and I will be speaking against the motion because I believe that one should live to eat. Right. It's. Let us look at the food pattern of our everyday life, where we start off with the breakfast, and then there's a snack, and there's lunch, and there's afternoon a snack, and then there's dinner or evening snack, or you could have a little bit of here and there permutation and combination, and a lot of other people put in some other here and there tidbits too. And as they say, one of the nicest thing about life, not survival, is the way that we must regularly stop whatever it is we are doing, work, no matter how important it is, and devote our attention to eating. Why? Because we live to eat. Now, supposing you woke up tomorrow and you saw in the newspapers and the TV screens flashing that from tomorrow, you will not need to take food. Something has happened. Just hypothetically, let's think about it. Something has happened and you will get the requisite amount of calories from the air, say, by breathing. Okay. Or maybe for whatever you from your drinking water, your tap water will provide you whatever calories you need, and you need not take food. Just think about it for a moment. How would you feel? If food was all about calories, if it was all about survival, then you should have felt good. Just take 1 second to think about it. Would you agree to such a life where you had no need to take food because all your calories were supplied from somewhere, or all you needed for survival was being supplied from somewhere else? Think about, I will not even ask you to think about all the wonderful things that have been shown in this picture. Just think about your life. No food from tomorrow. Would you agree to that? I'm sure 100% of you, including my learned opponent, would say, no, not for me, maybe for somebody else. That is why we need to understand, what does food mean to us? What does it mean to you and me? Does it mean protein, vitamins, fats, carbohydrate in the right proportions that we consume for satisfying our hunger? Is that what food means to you? Or is it also about enjoyment, about aroma, about flavor, about color and texture, adding to an experience that both satisfies our hunger and pleases our senses? Yes, that is what food means to us. And that is why it is so very important in our lives that are meant to be lived, not survived, right? So good food means good life. Food is also about culture and history, about where the food we eat comes from, about how it was discovered, about what our ancestors did to make it something that expresses a way of life. To a lot of you who are Bengalis out there, these pictures would immediately strike a chord, because shoshi ilish, and this is mutton biryani and kosha mangsho and posto aloo. Would you, for God's sake, ever exchange this for anything else? Can you imagine your life without this? All of this, and this is for us Bengalis. There are so many other cuisines across the country, as also so many cuisines from across the world. Why do you think so many cuisines developed? We all started off from having those, fibers and vegetables and fruits from the trees. That's where all our ancestors came from. Why did so many cuisines develop? The sushi, the dim sums, the herbs, the salad. Why? Because man is meant to live to eat and not eat to live. Food is also about memories, about the food your parents and grandparents put on your table when you were a child, so that today we are, these are so ingrained within us. They are so much a part of us that when we say Christmas, it's about cakes. When we say Eid, it's about sevai. When we say Navratri, it's about the khichdi, right? And can you imagine the Christmas without the cake, or the Eid without the sevai, or the Navratri without this? Would you be imagining? Would you want, calories to be put in its place? No, certainly not. Survival is one thing and living is one more. And very, very importantly, food fulfills a person's social needs, right? And also social media needs, as you can see there. But remember, food is a great way to bring people together. We celebrate food in everything. Every kind of celebration in the world begins and, ends with food. Birthdays, weddings, meetings, housewarming, anniversaries, and even funerals. So cooking is all about people. Cooking is not about, only eating and, survival. Eating, food, cooking, these have a completely different meaning altogether. It's not about obesity and calorie restriction. It is about whether we live to eat. Yes, we all live to eat. And because we live to eat, food fuels the economy big time. This is what the food service industry. And do you think this would have been possible if we were, eating to survive and not living to eat? All of us live to eat. all of us, every one of us, excepting for maybe 1 or 2% who are so obsessed with the so-called calorie counting. And I'll say obsessed because if you're actually counting your calories properly, you will not eat to live, you live to eat. And we'll say how. And this is how the industry, the quick service and restaurant industry has grown. Look, I won't even name the figures, you know them without me even telling you. And it could not have grown if we did not love our food, right? We love our food, we live our food, right? So my learned opponent will say, yes, that is what I'm trying to oppose. We live to eat and we should not. Now I'll ask you, is it wrong to live to eat? That is the question out here. Should I say should? This picture out here, the topmost one, the picture of the teeth of chimpanzees, the first one. And as you go down, you can see the smaller teeth. These are human teeth, okay? So when we were in the ape stage, when we were having those, whatever was available on the trees, and we didn't know anything about cooking, our teeth were big because we were meant to, continuously chew fibers and raw vegetables and raw fruits. But when man learned the art of cooking, his teeth became smaller. This was evolution. Let us not try to go back on evolution. And our brains, this is the smaller one is the chimpanzee brain. The bigger one is the human brain. Over a period of time, it has evolved. And we have something which is known as the gustatory cortex, which is not there in such bigger proportion in the apes. It is there in us because this is evolution. We have learned the art of taste. We have learned what taste is all about. And remember, nature has provided us with 10,000 taste buds with the function to taste our food. And they're actually replaced every 2 weeks. So that is how we are meant to be. We are meant to love our food. We are meant to live our food. Years back, that would be almost like, around 200 years back, I think there was this huge concept coming up that, eventually in another 50 years or 70 years, people are not going to eat anymore. They're going to get food replacement pills, and they're going to have all their calories, supplied through those pills. And that's going to be where, human development is going to lead. Today, human development has led to people going for tourism to space, but our food replacement pills have not come because that is not what food is meant to be. Food is not meant to be only calories counting. It is not meant to be for survival. It is meant to be for enjoyment. Food eating is something else. Let us not mix it. Let us not mix, excess food with proper food, with loving food, with living food. As they say, tell me what you eat and I'll tell you what you are, because there is no sincerer love than the love of food. I will place 2 pictures before you. I agree that the First Lady might have a better BMI because she says no to all that is quote unquote unhealthy. And, maybe she is a fitter soul in terms of BMI. And I'll ask you to judge for yourself, which picture would you like to be in? Because when you love food, you are usually a much more happier person, because as they say, good food is the basis of true happiness. You can't buy happiness, but you can buy food. And happiness, while we were talking about longer life, remember, yes, you must bring down diabetes, we must bring down hypertension, we must not allow, obesity to come up, but do not link obesity with a love for food, while with living for food. Prioritize your happiness, because even every other thing is unhealthy. I assume that all my people, who believe in live to eat are all unhealthy. And I'll go by your expression for a second. And even if they're just happy, it's going to extend their life by years, by yards. And they are not unhealthy, by the way. Because why are they not unhealthy? Why do I oppose what Dr. Deep Datta had to say in the very beginning? Because when you say the term live to eat, my learned friend has tried to express living to eat as a judgmental phrase that attaches a false sense of morality onto a subject into an artificial way. When I say live to eat, it does not necessarily translate into live to eat unhealthy. See, if something is your priority in life, you're going to give a lot of thought to it. You're going to think about it. You're going to plan it out. And when you're going to plan it out, you will live to eat, but you live to eat healthy. So that is not the same as being obsessive with food. Living to eat is what we all do. It is how man has evolved. It is how we have learned to live. We've grown up by living to eat. But that doesn't mean that living to eat unhealthy. So I would strongly contend that expression and say that live to eat, certainly do live to eat, healthy, in a healthy way, because what matters is not only to add years to your life, not like the Japanese who live for 110 years. I do not know how many of you want to live for 110 years by cutting down your calories extremely low, but it is also important to add life to your years. And I'll ask all of you, which side of the banner would you like to be? As Sir said in the very beginning, first 50 years out of 80 years, he said, 50 years to live to eat and 30%, 30 years to eat to live. So I think Sir has given his decision in the very beginning itself. I rest my case. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a brilliant advocacy in favor of food by Dr. Arundhati Dasgupta. Deep is smiling. So I think he has his rebuttal ready. So we'll be just having one rebuttal. No, sir, rebuttal is there. So that way Arundhati is safe. But Deep has to refute what Arundhati has said. So 2 minutes for you for a brief rebuttal.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Arundhati. Always a pleasure listening to you. A brave fight indeed put up by you. But then you try to equate that eat to live is about boring food, about keto diet, about low energy diet. It's not so. It's not about starving. It's about meaningful eating, which you accepted at the end of your presentation. In your presentation, you highlighted that how eating out has become a fashion, how the restaurant industry has boomed. Live to eat is all about capitalism and consumerism. And consumerism is something which is destroying and eating away our planet. Eat to live is all about harmony with nature, celebrating food, sharing, and not hogging and not binge eating. So let me share with you the first lockdown nearly a year back, all the restaurants, everything were closed. We were wondering what will happen with so much of COVID. Where will the patient with AMI and stroke patients go? Trust me, we all know in that 6 months, the incidence of stroke, heart attacks, everything went down. The blood sugar control of all our patients was so much better. And we were wondering what happened. And people stopped eating out. The single most important cause of uncontrolled diabetes, hypertension, all name the metabolic complication, is eating out. Because eating out is not the healthy way of eating. As Dr. Arundhati said, you have to cook meaningful food. Cooking meaningful food like good Bengali food takes a lot of labor, hard work. It's a slow process. Fast food, anything which comes easy, is not good, not healthy, may give us short-term satisfaction. And that is what is all eat to live to eat. I'm sorry. So eating, madam, you highlighted, imagine no food is available tomorrow, ma'am. No scaring of people. Nobody's talking of absence of food or deficiency of food. Nobody's talking of water, drinking water and get calories. But healthy food can be tasty also. For aromatic food, you need not eat food just for the sake of smell. You have flowers, you have perfumes. There is so many good natural smells in the nature. So I think I talked of my presentation was a more scientific way of, and not a very colorful presentation to why when we just eat to live, we don't eat excess, we can prevent so much of complications. We can have a very meaningful and healthy life. The second part of the life, we can be independent and not dependent on our kids and future generation. With this, I'd like to rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful debate, rarely heard, rarely seen, because both of the wonderful speakers did put up a fight, and I think that was a sham fight, so to say, because both of them agreed on the balancing act. While we cannot ignore the hedonistic part of food, which is something keeps us going, especially in difficult times like COVID. At the same time, we should not go overboard and just keep on eating for the sake of eating. We should eat for sustaining ourselves, but that eating should be a pleasurable one that can be made a pleasurable one, an attractive one through culinary science, culinary exercise. And that really will take us probably to the next session. For this, I thank both Dr. Deep Datta and Dr. Arundhati Dasgupta for for an excellent debate. I declare this session closed and hand over to Dr. Aditya Deshpande to make us learn some cooking.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. That was an excellent debate. Many interesting points from both sides. Now, moving on to the